for Terminal Server Edition. Let me tell you, the product's come a long way since then. I've come full circle, working back again with those technologies. If you haven't looked at remote desktop services, which is what we used to call terminal services, but everybody knew what terminal services was, so we changed the name. We've made some huge improvements in 2012, and that's what I want to walk you through this morning, is just some of those key changes. Now, we've got some great demos set up, so I'll kind of just talk to some things here today, but if you want an opportunity to look at some of these consoles and talk to some guys about a little more technical detail, I invite you to come over to the end user computing booth area there. We've got some VDI setups. You can look at the consoles and things like that. So in terms of what we've done and where the improvements come for VDI, I really bucket them into three areas. Those are efficient management. How do we make management easier? With Windows 2008 R2, you could do VDI. You could do a VDI solution. We had a quick start guide for it. The quick start guide was 100 pages. And it read a little bit like a choose your own adventure book. It was like, now you need to configure the broker. Flip to page 55. So you flip through this document to 55 and go through this checklist, and it would say, next thing you need to do is configure your web access gateway. Flip to page 75, and so you'd flip over and do that. It was a 100-page quick start guide. It took about a week to get through and get it working, and you could actually get a VDI pool up and running. With Windows Server 2012, we reduced that 100-page quick start guide to a 6-click wizard. I call it 6 clicks and a cup of coffee. Click through the wizard, which machines do you want, which services do you want, click deploy, go get a cup of coffee, it automatically configures everything for you. We also put a big investment in lowering the cost of VDI. Now I always tell customers, don't do VDI to save money. If you're doing VDI to save money, you're going to be disappointed. Do VDI because you want to secure your data, you want to keep everything in the data center. Do VDI because you want to enable mobile workers so people can work from anywhere and still have access to their business applications and data and resources. Or do VDI if your management is just completely out of control and you want to centralize and bring that into the data center. Those are some of the reasons to do VDI. Don't do it to save money necessarily. That being said, when you do decide to go with some kind of a remote desktop or VDI solution, we've made some huge investments in how we can reduce the overall cost of that. Dependencies on SANs and big expensive storage environments we've taken out of the solution. And the final piece where we made huge investments was in the user experience. Doesn't matter how, if you put a solution in place, if users decide that it's too laggy, if it's too slow, if it doesn't feel as authentic as their physical desktop that they're used to, they can't do everything they want to, they're not going to use it. So we made huge investments in really making it usable for end users, making that a good seamless experience. So let me talk a little bit more about efficient management. I talked a little bit about the deployment wizard, and we can show you that over at the demo booth. But it is very easy to get set up and running. Whether you want to set everything up on a single box because you just want to do a pilot or a proof of concept, whether you want to create a large solution to scale to thousands of users, we can do it all from the same console, the same administration tool. The admin process in 2008 was 5 or 6 different MMC consoles that you had to flip through. With 2012, it's all built into Server Manager. You do everything from one place. Whether you're doing remote desktop services, whether you're doing VDI, it's all managed from the same place. We also, everything we can do through the console, we can do through PowerShell. So as you start scaling your solution into thousands of seats, it's very easy to automate that. You're going to want to automate it for thousands of seats, right? So everything we can do through the console, we can do with PowerShell as well. Some other things, streamlining management of services, virtual machine management. It's one of the things to think about, when you've got VDI, you have 2 ways you can set VDI up. You can set up what we call personal VMs, which is really the analog of taking that physical PC off of someone's desk, moving it into the data center and having them connect to it remotely. We also do what we call pooled VMs. And I describe pooled VMs like a hotel room. When I go to a hotel, I go up to the registration desk. They've got hundreds of rooms that look just alike. They give me a key to one of those rooms. I go use it. For the length of my stay, it doesn't matter what I do to that hotel room, right? I can rearrange the furniture, I can throw the towels on the floor. When I check out, what happens? They're going to reset that room, make it look just like it did before I got there. Pooled VMs work the same way. This is great for lab environments, things like that, where we just want to give someone a desktop they can use, but we don't want to worry about what did they install, what viruses got pulled onto the machine. We just want to manage back to that pristine state. The other thing that we can do is when it is time to update that pristine state. So a service pack comes out. We want to apply a service pack to that gold image that we've got. It's very easy to do with our VDI solution. You just tell it, time to recreate the gold image. It says, great, where's the new base image that you want to use? You tell it which one you want to use, and it goes out and automatically updates all of them for you. It's a very elegant solution for managing those desktops. So let's talk a little bit about low cost, because we've made a few improvements there that are very interesting to people. One of them is with what we call user profile disk. So I just explained to you this idea of a pooled VM, right? And the idea that when a person logs off, we just blow away any changes they made to it and reset that machine back to how it started. Well, it's not entirely usable for a lot of people if they want to set their own background wallpaper, if they want to create their own Internet Explorer favorites, do some customization like that. They don't want that. They don't want to have to do that every time they log in. So you can do it with roaming profiles or UEV or Absence. There's other products that kind of will do that profile management for you. But we built in user profile disks to our VDI solution, which basically takes all that user personalization settings and stores that in a separate VHD file on a file share. So it's completely seamless to a user. A user logs in, they can add favorites, they can change the background wallpaper, they can save files to their My Documents folder. When they log out, we're going to reset that machine back to the gold image, but all of that personalization, everything that was in that user's profile information, we're storing in a separate profile disk that we don't discard. Next time they log in, if it's a VM pool, they're probably going to get a different machine in that pool, doesn't matter. As part of the login, we're going to mount that user profile disk into their session. So all their data is there, all their files, all of their settings. One of the other things that we've done is fair share. This is really one of those things that's just on, you don't even need to think about. But what you don't want in any kind of multi-user shared computing environment like this is one user to affect the experience for all the other users. If I start doing something that's CPU intensive, like compiling an application or a really big file transfer over the network, I don't want that to slow down the experience for all the users on the machine because one person is hogging a bunch of resources, right? So fair share takes care of that for you automatically. Prohibits one user from just monopolizing resources to the point that it degrades the experience for all the other users. And then the other step that we've got, and this is really key in terms of reducing the cost. Anybody that's done VDI or anybody that's looking at VDI architectures will tell you the hardest part about VDI is getting the storage right. Storage is always going to be your biggest expense because you went from hard drives all over distributed across your company that are all doing everybody's work. Now you've got all those hard drives in one place and you've got to try to get that same performance level for multiple users on this shared hard disk array. So that used to mean buying expensive SANs and things like that. With huge investments in 2012 around what we call storage spaces. This is really the ability to give you all of that SAN functionality, hybrid storage, so we can have a mix of solid state and spinning disks in the same array, and we'll automatically optimize and put the most requested data on the spinning disks in that pool. It just looks like one volume to the operating system. The operating system says, okay, I've got this D drive, that's where I'm going to put all the VMs. Underneath that though, that actually could be multiple disks, just local disks plugged into the machine, a mix of solid state and spinning disks. Operating system will automatically optimize the files that are getting requested the most will reside on those solid state disks, so the access time is faster. So it's very easy to get that up and running. One of the other features that's new in R2 is disk deduplication for VDI. So when you think about this VDI environment, you think of this personal VMs, maybe you've got hundreds of VMs sitting on the same volume that are largely the same. They've all got a copy of Windows, maybe a copy of Office in them. For the most part, these have a lot of the same data in them, a lot of redundant data that you now have hundreds of copies of in your storage environment. With disk deduplication, we automatically look for those redundancies and we only store one copy of those similar files. So we see huge reductions in the storage, up to 90%, 80 to 90% reduction in the amount of storage that you normally see for a VDI deployment. And one of the other things is we actually do some caching as part of that disk deduplication. So not only do we give you all this storage back, we also give you a performance improvement by turning it on. So some very cool stuff you can do with disk deduplication. I've got a demo environment that I work with. It's got about 150 gigabytes of VMs in it. They're taking up 13 gig on disk, so an over 90% reduction because there's so much similarity in there. They've all got a copy of Windows in them that's largely the same. The other place we've got a bunch of improvements is in the user experience. As I said before, if users don't like the experience, they're not going to use it. So there's a few things we've done. First of all, the RDP protocol, which people are familiar with. In the Windows 7 timeframe and previous to that, people always said RDP is pretty good for the LAN, but it's not really a great WAN protocol. And people looked at other solutions and other protocols for that. Huge investments were made in the Windows 8 timeframe to really improve the protocol, and I will say that it's on par with anything else out there for WAN performance. We do a lot of really clever things in terms of always checking the available network, how good is your connectivity back to the system, and we dynamically tune the experience based on the bandwidth that's available. So we'll do some really smart things with how we deliver video, if you want to watch videos over that remote connection, things like that to help reduce the amount of bandwidth taken. And we just do some smart things with how we encode the data now to give you a great WAN experience. Some of the other things that we have are GPU support. If you've got applications that require 3D rendering, CAD, CAM, things like that, we can actually deliver those through a VDI environment by putting GPUs in the server. And we share those GPUs across multiple machines. So it's, with other solutions, yeah, you could have VMs and you could assign each VM a specific GPU in the server. With our solution, just like we split up the CPU and share the CPU across multiple VMs, we can do the same things with GPUs. Put graphics cards in your server, we can share that and have multiple VMs, share that graphics card. They can do some 3D rendering, things like that. We can show you all that back in the demo booth. They've got that set up. Now the GPU it's not necessary for most work. For your typical office worker workloads, surfing the web, using office tools, there's really not any advantage to the GPU. In fact, and if you don't have a GPU on the machine, we'll emulate it with the CPU. So we can still give you some pretty good performance without a GPU, but it's an option, it's there. If you've got apps that require it, we'll take advantage of it. USB redirection, this really means whatever, if I'm sitting on my own machine, I'm sitting at home and I'm accessing my VDI environment at work, any USB devices that I plug in locally, I can access from that remote session. So webcams, scanners, printers, thumb drives. As an administrator, you can set policy on what you want to allow or not allow. Again, if you're trying to keep all the data in the data center, you may not want to allow thumb drive access, but you do have the ability to do that if you want. You can enable any USB device, access it from that remote session. So really making it easy for people to work from anywhere, use the devices they already have. And then big improvements in the user experience. We're fully touch compatible. If you're using a touch operating system like Windows 8, remoting it from a touch device, we'll remote that full touch experience. So multiple points of touch, all the Windows gestures, those all work. We, one question I get, I've been doing these presentations for a couple of years now. There's one question I always know I'm going to get, which is, when are you guys going to do an iPad client or an Android client? And we actually released those in October. We're pretty excited about that. They're free in the app stores. You can go download the iPad client, the Android client. There's also a Mac OS client. And we have that full touch experience there as well. So you can remote to your Windows 8 desktop from your iPad, all your same swipe gestures, pinching and zooming, all of that works in that session from the iPad. They were gonna find me an HDMI connector for the iPad. If it shows up here, I can do that demo for you and show you a little bit of that. But that's the big experience. And I do invite you to come and check it out over in the expo hall in the opposite corner from where we're at. We can show you some of this stuff, show you the admin tools and things. So that's my 20 minutes. I'll stick around for just a couple more minutes if people have questions, but thanks for coming over. I do invite you to check out the booth and see the demos, see the consoles firsthand. Thanks, guys.